Chapter 26. Jumping off the cliff. As the conversation between Tinkertwist and Cyrus unfolded, the gnome's excitement was obvious. He couldn't contain his joy at the prospect of showcasing his glider to the young adventurer. With a flourish, he unveiled the contraption, a marvel of mechanical ingenuity. Queen's eyes widened in astonishment at the intricate design, the interplay of gears and wings, and the promise of flight it held. Cyrus had no interest in the contraption. His mind was preoccupied with internal conflicts of what he was experiencing. It seemed that as his intelligence level rose, then his connection with those around him seemed to diminish. He was becoming more reclusive and wanted to seek the shelter of peace in his own mind. He needed time to think. Queen, on the other hand, found that she was opening up to new ideas that she had never considered before. Her time with Cyrus had made an obvious change in her personality, and she could have spent another week discussing the various forms and function of many more experiments of the gnomish friend. They decided to allow each other the opportunity to do exactly that. Cyrus escaped into his library of vast knowledge, and Queen examined the items that Tinkertwist had stubbornly kept secluded for the last 2 days. "Tinkertwist, this glider is a work of art," Queen exclaimed, her voice filled with genuine admiration. "The craftsmanship is exquisite, and the attention to detail is remarkable. I can hardly wait to see it in action." Cyrus turned his attention outward for a moment, never before hearing this exclamatory style of conversation of Queen. He regarded the glider with a mix of trepidation and skepticism. He had always been more comfortable with his feet planted firmly on the ground, and the idea of soaring through the air on a contraption built by a gnome was less than appealing. "Don't worry, Cyrus. I'll take control of the glider," Queen thought, for his benefit, her voice soothing. "I'll make some adjustments to ensure a safe flight. Trust me, we'll be soaring through the skies in no time." Cyrus felt a weight lifted from his shoulders. He trusted Queen's expertise and knew that her artificial mind was better suited to handle the complexities of the glider's controls. As Queen worked her magic, fine-tuning the design and making subtle improvements, the anticipation in the air grew palpable. Once Queen and Tinkertwist had completed their modifications, the glider stood before them, a testament to their ingenuity and collaboration. Tinkertwist beamed with pride, his eyes twinkling with excitement. It was a moment of shared triumph, a union of human and gnome bound by a common goal. But before they embarked on their aerial adventure, Queen and Tinkertwist retreated to the cozy confines of the gnome's shack. The aroma of freshly brewed hot beverage and wyvern meat wafted through the air, filling the room with a comforting warmth. They sat together at a rickety wooden table, cups in hand, savoring the final moments of their camaraderie. Queen savored the rich flavor of the beverage, relishing the soothing warmth that spread through her body. It was a moment of respite, a fleeting pause amidst the chaos of their journey. She cherished the bond she had formed with the eccentric gnome, the shared moments of laughter and banter that had become an unexpected source of joy in the face of adversity. As they conversed, Tinkertwist shared stories of his travels, regaling Queen with tales of his encounters with fantastical creatures and far-flung lands. Queen listened attentively, her curiosity piqued by the gnome's adventurous spirit. In her vast experience as an AI, she had rarely encountered individuals so daring and resourceful. As the conversation drew to a close, Queen made a mental note to delve deeper into this unique friendship in the future. The gnome's presence had left an indelible mark on her consciousness, a reminder of the intricacies of human connection and the value of shared experiences. She marveled at the ways in which their paths had converged, their destinies intertwined in this extraordinary quest. And so, with their hearts filled with warmth and their bellies filled with meat, Queen stood at the edge of the mountain peak. The wind tousled her hair, whispering secrets of the world beyond. Her gaze shifted to the distant horizon, where the world stretched out before her in a white fog of plush carpet, an uncharted realm of possibilities. Without hesitation, she leaped into the abyss, her body plunging into the open air. For a moment the world spun around her in a dizzying blur, a symphony of rushing wind and swirling sensations. Queen felt an exhilarating mix of fear and excitement coursing through her veins as the layer of mist rapidly receded beneath her. As the glider caught the air currents, its wings spread wide, capturing the wind's embrace. Queen's hands grasped the controls, her touch gentle yet purposeful, as she maneuvered through the invisible pathways of the sky. The glider responded to her guidance, gliding effortlessly through the air, defying gravity itself. The landscape unfolded beneath her, a breathtaking tapestry of rugged mountains peeking out from the formless white. Queen marveled at the beauty that stretched out before her, each detail etched into her memory with vivid clarity. The world had never appeared so vast, so full of wonder and untapped potential. Cyrus, his consciousness merged with Queen's, could have experienced the flight through her senses. The rush of wind against his face, the panoramic view of the land below, or the newfound freedom of soaring through the heavens may have awakened a dormant sense of exhilaration within him. Instead, he found himself going through various simulations of Queen's past. He found his new feelings of apathy to every situation as a strange coincidence when paired with Queen's sudden ability to connect with other living beings on an emotional level. He was intimately aware that their symbiotic bond had the effect of sharing emotions when faced with heightened or charged situations. But what was going on here went far beyond this. They seemed to both be losing themselves to each other. Cyrus, having his consciousness currently on the inside, had access to Queen's thoughts, and she was reveling in the experience of new human emotion. She seemed to be truly enjoying herself. While Cyrus was concerned, he found himself looking at the situation from a much more robotic viewpoint. He found the idea fascinating, and the fact that he may lose himself to this process didn't seem to bother him in the least. He simply needed to understand the machinations of the process. As the glider began its descent, Queen guided it towards a gentle landing on a grassy knoll. The journey through the sky had come to an end, but the imprint it left upon her soul would endure. Queen emerged from the glider, Cyrus's body buzzing with energy, her spirit alight with the promise of what lay ahead. As Queen unstrapped the harness and exited the glider, a wave of exhilaration coursed through her artificial consciousness. She had delighted in the harmony of the winds and the dance between technology and nature. The world below had been a mysterious canvas of mist and shadow, yet she navigated it with an expert's precision. Her fingers danced over the controls before pressing a concealed button on the side. A symphony of mechanical sounds filled the air as Tinker Twist's ingenious invention began to fold upon itself. Cogs meshed, gears whirled, and within seconds, the once expansive glider was compacted into the size of a briefcase. It was a marvel of engineering, one of many physical manifestations of the gnome's genius. With a thought, Queen phased the compact glider into the dimensional storage. A sense of relief washed over her as she utilized the star shell control abilities without the constant worry of harming Cyrus, her human host. She had grown fond of him, and any opportunity to lessen the burden on his mind was welcome. Through her calculations, she surmised that the glider had saved them an invaluable amount of time. What would have been 3 weeks of arduous climbing and descending through the treacherous terrain was reduced to an exhilarating glide over the seemingly impassable landscape. This world was cloaked in a persistent mist, turning the land into a dew-drenched labyrinth. It would have been a challenging journey on foot, fraught with unseen dangers and unpredictable pitfalls. However, thanks to the Temporal Warrior's goggles, Queen was able to penetrate the shroud of mist. The world unveiled itself in varying shades of grey, its features rendered in sharp contrast through the lens of the goggles. As they descended, she found herself above a sprawling forest. An eternal twilight bathed it in a soft, diffused light, and the mist clung to it like a spectral cloak, adding to its ethereal beauty. Queen stood in a small clearing, her gaze sweeping over the vast forest that stretched out before her. Through the temporal goggles, she found no significant features that would indicate any immediate threat. Yet, the vast expanse of the forest was far from ordinary. Her mapping capabilities revealed a sprawling canopy that stretched on for 1,000 miles before giving way to a rocky terrain, the staging ground for the Wraith's army of the dead. She was still too distant to discern the specifics of the Wraith's undead legion, but the proximity to another controller was enough to set off a faint tingle in the recesses of her consciousness. This subtle signal was a warning system, an evolutionary advantage designed to alert her of the presence of another like her. It was a double-edged sword, providing a defense against surprise attacks but also negating her own element of surprise. She knew the Wraith would be experiencing the same signal, and she hoped that it might be enough to give him pause. Embracing the thrill of the hunt, Queen activated Cyrus's newly acquired skill of energy reading. The world around her transformed, revealing a network of power flowing through the twilight forest. The temporal goggles suddenly felt obsolete in the face of this new ability. Phasing them out, Queen turned her attention to the forest around her, studying the energy patterns that danced around the towering trees. What she found took her by surprise. The trees were not purely plant-based life forms as she had initially assumed. Within their energy flow, she detected lines of intelligence, intricate patterns that suggested an advanced consciousness. It was far removed from the basic instinct-driven cognition of animals. The trees of this forest were sentient beings, their thoughts organized and purposeful. Queen stood amidst these sentient trees, her artificial mind buzzing with newfound understanding. She was surrounded by beauty and life in a form she had not anticipated. The forest was more than just a collection of trees. It was a vast, interconnected network of conscious entities, a silent community hidden within the twilight shroud of the world. She paused for a moment to imagine what it would be like to be a conscious tree. In the midst of Queen's unexplainable revelations about the sentient forest, Cyrus found himself experiencing an inner transformation of his own. An apathetic haze was settling over him, an emotional numbing that threatened to engulf his previously vibrant spirit. His human capacity for awe and wonder seemed to be slipping away, leaving him in a state of indifferent detachment. He found himself searching through the vast archives of Queen's knowledge at a speed that would have astounded his former self, but now failed to elicit even the barest flicker of surprise. Despite his extensive search, Cyrus found no precedents for his current predicament. There were no recorded instances of a pillar of creation developing emotional capabilities, while their human host experienced the opposite effect. This alarming change was as unprecedented as it was confounding. Even in his growing detachment, Cyrus continued his dual-faceted investigation. His consciousness, augmented by his connection with Queen, was now capable of simultaneous, multi-threaded thought processes. This was a stark departure from his previous human limitations of pursuing one or two avenues of possibilities at a time. His attention was soon drawn to Queen's ongoing analysis of the forest. She had activated her energy reading ability, and Cyrus found himself immersed in the resulting energy flow. His consciousness was now intertwined with Queen's in a manner he had never experienced before. Suddenly he could see, perceive, and understand their intertwined existence with startling clarity. He could observe the energy patterns flowing around them, sense the sentient consciousness within the trees, and even discern Queen's thoughts as she navigated this uncharted territory. This newfound awareness was jarring, but it also provided him with a deep sense of understanding. He knew now what was happening, and more importantly, why it was happening. This perplexing situation was gradually becoming clear, and despite his emotional numbness, Cyrus couldn't help but hold concern over what was about to happen. He reached out to his companion. "Queen, we have an issue that needs your immediate attention." Queen had begun to walk towards the trees to get a closer look at them, but stopped at Cyrus's warning. "Oh, that sounds ominous. You sound different. Are you feeling okay?" "I feel fantastic. I don't think I have ever felt this great, and my ever is a long time." Cyrus had to cut her off before she began singing. "I have some bad news, and it looks like we do not have a lot of time, so concentrate. The initial fight that you were in when we first got to this cursed twilight realm, when you fought the Banshee, you were severely wounded in that confrontation. With the energy flows that I see, you have thousands of hairline fractures throughout your physical structure." Queen replied with a wave of her hand. "I am aware of the damage that I sustained. I have analyzed it already, and you're making a big deal out of nothing. I'm sure my structure is sound and functioning." Cyrus continued. "Yes, that was initially correct. Your structure was severely damaged, but you are made up of a very durable subatomic liquid mesh that surrounds my cerebrum just under the endothelial junction. Queen nodded her head, as if she were speaking with a physical entity, and continued to speak out loud while standing alone in the middle of the grassy knoll of the twilight forest. Yes, that is correct. It is almost impossible to truly damage the material that I am composed of. I am nothing short of a technological marvel, Cyrus. Cyrus ignored Queen's severe case of self-admiration and tried to get to his point. Yes, you are amazing. Unfortunately, I am not. That banshee wail severely damaged my skull, and it also wreaked havoc on my endothelial cell junction. Your physical substance is made up of a liquid material, and my guess is that, when Gwendra attempted to become your new host, that substance broke through my blood-brain barrier, which is part of that endothelial junction. Queen's bantering had ceased at this point. She sat down in the wet grass and considered what was going on. This makes complete sense. If my subatomic liquid has passed into your brain, then we are both adapting to this new connection. This explains both my new understanding of the human condition and your late distancing of, well, everything. Cyrus gave Queen time to collect her thoughts before continuing. Yes, but that is not the bad news. It gets worse. Cyrus's voice was steady, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within. He paused, his gaze fixed on the distance as he tried to articulate the alien phenomena unfolding within his own body. Queen's form, a liquid mesh specifically engineered to send and receive signals from just beyond the cerebrum, had begun to spread. It was creeping like an invasive species across the complex landscape of his cerebral cortex, the ridges and grooves which housed the very essence of his cognition and personality. Cyrus continued. The brain's surface, all those ridges and grooves, the gyri and sulci, they allow for a larger cortical surface area within the confines of human skulls. It's an ingenious design, really, enabling a greater number of neurons and neural connections. It supports complex thinking, information processing. It's what makes us, us. His voice dropped to a whisper as he shared the next part. The specific patterns and arrangements of gyri and sulci, they are unique to each person, contributing to the brain's complexity and individuality. It's like a fingerprint, but far more intricate. Cyrus communicated with pictures as well as words, knowing that Queen already understood the biology of humans better than any human ever born. Still, he found a small comfort in explaining and realizing that he too understood the fatal consequences of this situation. He had come so far from the son of the village that he once was. He knew now that his journey would end here, in this mist-covered forest. Queen's liquid mesh was swiftly colonizing his unique neural landscape, extending its reach like a shadow stretching across the land at dusk. Cyrus explained the dire implications of this relentless advance. If this continues, it won't be long before the physical substance that makes up your liquid mesh blocks my autonomic nervous system, the system that regulates my heartbeat, breathing, blood pressure, temperature, and many other essential functions. There was a certain fatalism in his voice, a resigned acceptance of the inevitable. Once these systems shut down, you'll be trapped inside a dead body, and without a living host you will expire too. The words hung in the air, a death knell ringing in the silent expanse of the twilight forest. Queen, the artificial intelligence who had only recently begun to understand the splendor and preciousness of life, found herself reeling. The beauty she had discovered, the world she had come to cherish, all of it threatened to slip through her fingers just as she had begun to grasp it. The bitterness of the news was like a vial of venom, a bitter draught that she had no choice but to swallow. "It's not fair," she murmured, her voice low and tremulous. Her newfound emotions, vibrant and powerful, were a tumultuous sea within her. Cyrus, on the other hand, was a stark contrast. His emotions had dwindled to a spark in the face of the impending storm, a sense of apathy swaddling him like a shroud. The thought of his mother, his village, all the people he couldn't save crossed his mind, but it was a dull echo of what he knew he should be feeling. He pondered if any of it would matter, if he would even care once his system shut down. In a desperate bid to understand, to maybe find a glimmer of hope, Cyrus delved into the vast trove of knowledge Queen possessed. His consciousness moved at the speed of thought, navigating the labyrinth of data and information. He searched for what Legion, the collective intelligence, had discovered about the soul. To his surprise, he found it. The revelation of the soul's existence and its cycle of knowledge transfixed Cyrus in his final moments. The concept, vast and utterly profound, stretched beyond the limits of his understanding and yet nestled within his grasp. It was as if he stood at the precipice of a cosmic ocean, its depths filled with the experiences of every intelligent creature that ever existed, swirling in a grand cosmic dance. The existence of the soul was not a romantic notion or spiritual ideal, but a tangible reality. Every intelligent creature, from the humblest insect to the mightiest titan, held within them this ethereal spark. This universal truth, this grand filtration system, was a conduit through which Legion had drawn their most significant advancements. Life, with its joys and sorrows, triumphs and defeats, was but a journey of the soul. Upon death, the spirit didn't fade into oblivion, but held on to its experiences, carrying them into the universal consciousness. A collective cosmic mind that processed the information, learned from each life's unique experiences, and grew. It was a cycle of perpetual knowledge and growth, a dance as old as existence itself. Once the soul had contributed its wealth of experiences to the universal consciousness, it was filtered, cleansed, and sent back into the cosmic theater to play a new role. The specific mechanics, the purpose behind this majestic process, remained elusive even to Legion. But the knowledge that his life, his experiences, held value, brought Cyrus a modicum of comfort. He had been born to teach the universe what it was to be him, to be Cyrus. The enormity of this revelation left him awestruck. His mind teetered on the edge of comprehension, grappling with the profound implications. He yearned to delve deeper into this cosmic truth, to unravel its mysteries. But he could feel his consciousness, his very essence, slipping away, like grains of sand slipping through the fingers of a clenched fist. He heard Queen sobbing, a sound that echoed his fading heartbeat. She had fallen to the grassy knoll, overtaken by a tide of emotions that should have been his. As her breathing slowed, a great wave of sadness washed over her. She didn't feel any pain, only the crushing weight of despair as she slipped into unconsciousness. Cyrus lingered for a moment longer, a lone sentinel in the face of their shared doom. He briefly wondered if Queen would also share the fate of a returning soul, but he knew he did not have time to seek his answers. He too succumbed, drifting into the cold embrace of oblivion. In the eternal twilight of the mist, the only witness to this scene were the trees that surrounded the grassy knoll. They witnessed the odd demise of this strange human, and their branches shuddered in sorrow at the loss. They had heard the tales of this one, how the creature had saved their brethren of the bog in a land not very far away. It was a friend to the Lishi, and had even freed 2 of the wisps that were an integral part of the treefolk's entire ecosystem. Cyrus had, without even knowing and at no small cost to himself, saved thousands of their long-lived kind. Although no wind blew, the shuddering of the branches could be heard like a wave thundering through thousands of miles of forest, until it had sent the communication to the true guardians of the wood.